All right. Welcome into another episode of Hockey Royalty Live, the official podcast of hockeyroyalty.com. This podcast is getting you guys ready because we are coming back to the crypt. Kings are coming back for Game 3. We're going to be talking about the Game 2, the good, the bad, the ugly, what the Kings need to do better, and a little sprinkle of rain news because Kyle Garcia is in the house. Like, subscribe, let's go. All right, guys. Well, as you could tell, I'm a little upset by my name here, but we won't get into MLB baseball. I'm just going to let me hold my flag and we'll continue going. But there's plenty to be upset about it with the Kings game. Lost Game 2, going to the crypt. But outside of sports, how you guys doing today?
Not too bad. Been another busy day over here in Western New York. We started to get a little bit of warmer weather. We touched 70 for a bit, and we're back into the kind of 50s right now. So we'll see how the weekend looks. But all in all, not too bad. Hanging in there. How you guys doing, Kyle? How you doing?
I'm doing good. Been busy the last few days. Watching both the Kings and the Rain at the same time can get a little bit exhausting, but didn't end well for both last night. So I'll leave it at that.
Russell is, taking some time off. He's going to be, doing a 2 back-to-back gamer here. He's got a heavy weekend going to the stadium. So we're lucky enough to have Kyle Garcia talking on the Kings and the Rain tonight. Let's start it off with the Game 2 for the Kings here. Obviously, if you didn't listen to the previous episode, which shame on you, like and subscribe to this channel. But if you didn't listen, what we were talking about is the Kings got to get out hot and heavy. Edmonton's going to come out after losing and giving up multiple 2-goal leads, that they're going to come out hot. Kings got to weather storm. Did not happen. Probably the worst first period I've ever seen from the Kings this year, let alone maybe ever. I mean, 3 shots is lucky enough. I mean, there was a couple dribbles that went there that they gave us shots that shouldn't have been shots. I think 90% of that period was in our own zone. It just felt really bad. And I don't want to harp there too much, but that really set the tone for the entire game. What do you think, Joe? I mean, what did you see there? Was it just Edmonton imposing their will? Was it both the Kings and Edmonton, Kings being bad, Edmonton being good? What did you feel?
Most of it was Edmonton because, again, we talked about in Game 1, Edmonton's a really good team. Edmonton is the better team. And when you have elite players like they have, it's going to be tough to slow them down. But it was an unacceptable start. And really, you look at, that first period did them in. But let's be honest, it wasn't just the first period. Up until the Phil Deneau goal, which was, 5.5 or so left in the second period, it was all Edmonton. You go back and watch the first 5, 6, 7, 8 minutes of that second period. Korpisalo kept the Kings in that game. This game could have been over, kind of like Game 1 could have been over. The thing with the first two games is if Edmonton, this series could look a lot different if Edmonton were able to find a third goal and get up 3-0 and really extend that lead, which credit to Korpisalo really more than anybody. They were not able to do that. He kept them in the game, and the Kings get a little bit of a break. There was 2 really weak goals, frankly, from Skinner. I loved that. There was a great effort by Velarde, great goal, great hands, but not one that should go in the net if you're Skinner. And it brings the Kings right back into the game. To me, the Kings have played one good period, I would say. I thought the third period in Game 2 was pretty good. Relatively speaking, it's going to be tough to win this series the way these first 2 games have gone, because they were if it weren't for Edmonton kind of parading to the box at times in Game 1, and then they kind of sort of did the same thing in Game 2 to kind of let the Kings back into it just a little bit, give them a little bit of life. Between that and between Korpisalo, this series could very easily be 2-0 in favor of Edmonton. So either way, get out with a split, and that's okay.
So we talked about it last episode. 69% if you win Game 1, 71% if you win Game 2. Game 2 is more important. We lost game 2. But if you win both, 89%. Kings had a really chance to put it away here and come in because, as Greg Newsombaum says, what's the word on Fiala? We don't know. But if he rises like the Undertaker, it rises like the Phoenix in game 3, 4, 5. Don't you feel better about a 2-goal game lead? And then you get another player back. Like it just feels like even if you don't get him back, you feel better, I guess. But I guess my point is that we had a chance to come in and really set the tone. We stole game 1. You set the tone in game 2. You steal game 2 you take game 2, not steal. You take it for your own. Edmund doesn't have a chance. 89% if you win the first 2 games. Edmund doesn't have a chance, and we came out flat-footed. Kyle, I mean, you agreeing with Joe here that it was just piss-poor performance, and Edmonton was the better team overall?
1,000% agree. Before the game started, I'm pretty sure I expected a great start from Edmonton. To just the first 5 minutes, the Kings were have to weather the storm. Derek Ryan scores within the first 3 minutes of the game, I believe, but after that, it just seemed like the Kings were just trying to hang on.
That was a beautiful goal, and as much as the announcers of ESPN were just slobbering all over Edmonton the entire broadcast, they did get one thing right. That was a premeditated play. Draisaitl wasn't shooting for the goal; he shot it for the back. Ryan got it, tapped it in, and they've done it multiple times. You look at replays of Edmonton; they know the boards. That was a solid play by Edmonton. You got to give them props when the props is due. And they were able to exploit and on the fourth line, right? Draisaitl was multi-shifting because they were doing 11 and 7. Sorry, Kyle. I thought that was a really good play on their part. You got to give credit when credit is due.
No worries. That's fine. But I would say it felt like after that first goal, the Kings were just trying to hang on and just be down 1 to me. Obviously, they were able to get 2 goals and tie it up late in the second off a beautiful goal by Velarde with great hands. But it just seemed like throughout the game, it's just like Edmonton was able to impose their will and just do whatever they want. You saw defensemen getting down low on the forecheck. You saw forwards, being just every time the Kings had the puck, there was just no room out there or any space. And like Joe said, I've only seen like one good period from this team. And if you got to beat Edmonton, you got to play 60 minutes or even more. So you can't expect to play like game 1, maybe 30 plus minutes of great hockey and expect that to win a game 2. You have to be ready to play. And I just thought the Kings were not ready to play. But, they got a good coming back home for game 3. They have to get off to a great start.
Shake Master saying agree. Foxy thought it was not a set play. Who am I to disagree with Foxy? So maybe it wasn't. Joe, you brought up Korpisalo. This series could easily be 0-2 without him in net. I think he's looked steady. I think the only bad goal he gave up, quote unquote, was the one where Jersey shielded the shot. He had a little bit late reaction, but he's been solid in net. What have you seen from him, and how has the defense helped him, and how has he bailed out the Kings?
Well, I mean, he's been great, especially that game 2, that first period, and like I said, the first half of the second period. Edmonton could have had 5 goals. He was outstanding. I didn't love the third goal. I don't know if I call it a weak goal per se, but it's one that you want him to have. You want your guy to have that one. So I didn't love that one, but the Kings are nowhere near that game if it wasn't for Korpisalo. We talked about the Kings being kind of bend, don't break, right? Where you understand a team like Edmonton is probably going to control more of the play just because of how they're a better team and how much the players that they have. That said, Korpisalo's really done an excellent job. He's faced 32 high danger chances in the first 2 games alone. So it's not as if the Kings are bending, and maybe they haven't totally broken, but there's definitely some cracks that have gotten in there. To put this into perspective, and again, obviously it's 2 games. Okay, this could be a long series, but in 2 games, just to give you an idea of how the game flow has gone, there's not a single Edmonton player that is a sub 50% in terms of possession, in terms of Corsi, and only one player is sub 50 in expected goals. So we've talked a lot about how they're keeping McDavid off the board and they're doing this and doing that. And this is true, right? And keeping McDavid off the board for two
I mean,
games.
I heard it 75 times during the broadcast that McDavid has got 1 point. So we know that for sure.
And it seemed like he scored at will last season. So like that is like it's a good thing, obviously. But to level set a little bit, I think he's got like a 70% expected goal share. And nearly 60% possession and scoring chances and high danger chances. So like there's things happening when he's on the ice, and those numbers, while so far it hasn't hurt the Kings, they've been able to keep him off the score sheet. Again, like you look at, okay, if that were to continue, they're going to come. His goals are going to come if you're going to give him that many opportunities and that much life in the defensive zone. So I think the Kings have done an okay job on him. He's still getting out. He's still getting plenty of chances, but they've kept him off the score sheet, and that's right now in playoffs. That's the most important thing. So that is a good thing. But at some point, and hopefully as they shift to, when we get ahead to talk about Game 3, like hopefully we'll start to see some things change a little bit. But they're playing a little bit of fire right now. But back to Korpisalo, he has been great. I think he's been excellent, and I think he's the reason that this series is 1-1 and they're not down 2-0.
Have you been impressed by Korpisalo or Kyle? I mean, you weren't on the last podcast. Were you a Copley guy? Were you trying to get Korpisalo, and what have you thought about his play so far?
I like Copley, but in the playoffs, I've always been wanting to go with Korpisalo. I think he's played really great. That third goal, I'm pretty sure he would like to have that one back. But yeah, I think he's been great. I mean, there's times in that first period it could have been 3, 4, 5-0 early in the game, could have been over. So without him, the Kings don't have a chance of being in that game yesterday, and they don't even have a chance of stealing even Game 1 if he wasn't in net. So credit to him for keeping the Kings in both games and coming out with the split.
Yeah, I think it's something along the lines of we talked about this. We traded for this guy for a reason, and I always thought the bigger piece was Korpisalo more than Gavrikov. And you look at you coming into the series, the Kings were top 2 and eliminating high danger chances, and we just need to get some solid goaltending and not to shave off what Gavrikov has done. He's made some huge plays. He's washed out a lot of the big players in this series and played way better than what I thought he would versus highly skilled players. And Joe can talk about that in more depth. But Korpisalo, for me, has just been so steady and come up huge. And he's been athletic when he needed to be. He's been calm when he needed to be. He hasn't got agitated by a lot of the nonsense going on in the crease because agitation and emotions have been high in the series. Obviously, with the dry-sidle sticks to the back of the leg and the face washing and all this kind of stuff like that's been going on both sides. I mean, it's really been an emotional series going back to last year. And Korpisalo has just kind of been that even keel, calm in the storm, going on and coming and handling his business. And I've really liked what I've seen from him. Shankmaster comes in here and says, do we try to resign Corpy next year? I'm sure they will look into that. And Hockey Royalty as a whole has already said that we would prefer to prioritize Corpy over Gavrikov just because what we think he will be made, not what he actually will be making. So we'll see how that works out, but we'll get to that later on in the series. Korpisalo is definitely earning his money so far. Joe, let's get into the Gavrikov thing because I thought he had a decent game. I thought he had a great game first game. You even said it was his best game as a King. What did you see from him game 2, and what is the defense as a whole? Because obviously a guy that's named Dursey, we got Dursey a couple times, and we'll get to that. But how is the octopus looking in the defensive zone, and what have you seen from him?
Vladislav Gavrikov is doing to Connor McDavid what we and people thought Mikey Anderson did to Connor McDavid last year. Like, I still don't really understand why there was all the buzz around Mikey Anderson and how he played well against Connor McDavid last year. McDavid killed Mikey Anderson last year in playoffs
because they wanted to see some physicality, and fans who watch hockey on the television want those big hits, want the big moments, and he gave it to us last year. And Mikey Anderson, we saw the defense crumble without him, so he's a great defenseman.
No. I'm not meaning.
No, let me just finish. I just think that I think that we got a higher impression of Mikey Anderson, even though he did play well because of the big hits.
Yeah,
and this season, Gavrikov has been playing excellent.
Well, there's a massive difference, and again, it's 2 games versus 7 so far. But like when you look at,
tell me, Joe, tell me where the difference is at, buddy.
Well, first of all, Connor McDavid scored 6 goals against Mikey Anderson at 5-on-5 last playoffs alone. They weren't even. You don't want me to tell you what the expected goals and the possession numbers were for Connor McDavid against Mikey Anderson, because it was really, really bad last year. So that's why I always kind of push back just a little bit against how well Anderson played against McDavid last year, because he gave up almost a goal a game. So I don't know, how much we're going to pump tires, but when you flip it and you look at Gavrikov through 2 games here, Gavrikov is over a 51% possession in terms of Corsi. Expected goals is shaded toward McDavid, but it's, Gavrikov's 47%. That's not bad. Scoring chances, 6-4 in terms of Gavrikov. High danger chances, 2-2. Gavrikov has only allowed 2 high danger chances against Connor McDavid in 13 and a half minutes of ice time. So I repeat, Vladislav Gavrikov, and by the way, 0 goals against. So Gavrikov is doing to McDavid what everybody thought Mikey Anderson did to McDavid last year. So there's no way to not be impressed with what Gavrikov has done through the first 2 games of this series. And if conversely, if you look at McDavid against Mikey Anderson and Drew Doughty, it's bad again. Like, it's very bad. So I do wonder, as we flip to Los Angeles, what McClellan will try to do. Is it going to be, is he going to try to get Anderson and Doughty going against those 2, or is he against McDavid, or is he going to go with Gavrikov Roy? And I don't know how you don't go with Gavrikov Roy with how they've played so far against McDavid. And what's kind of surprising about this is, like, when it was Gavrikov Doughty, and maybe what we're doing here, and I don't mean to take anything away from Gavrikov here, but I think on all of the conversation, Matt Roy is getting totally lost in this, because when it was Gavrikov Doughty in those 2 games against Edmonton when Anderson was hurt,
straight trash.
It was very bad, very, very bad. But Gavrikov Roy, I mean, again, and Russ has continued to pump Matt Roy's tires, and perhaps rightfully so. Like, the common denominator
there isn't one single pair where Roy is a part of that he's negative Corsi or below 50%.
Just calmly goes about his business. And I'm not saying that Gavrikov doesn't deserve a lot of the praise here, because he's doing an excellent job defending the blue line, right? That's as that lefty in the 1-3-1. He's doing a really good job in that. So that, again, don't mean to take that away from him, but I think we'd be remiss to not mention Matt Roy in this conversation too.
Kyle, I mean, you're coming in here and looking at this team as a whole, not great. But Gavrikov's been steady the first 2 games. What have you seen from the D pair with him? And maybe where would you like this D pair to shift going into the next game?
Yeah, when Joe brought up those stats about the Mikey Anderson Gavrikov, I was kind of like befuddled, because I did not expect Gavrikov to actually have those kind of stats.
Because Joe brings in all the stats. Joe brings in all the stats. I'm going to drop some
stat wizard.
Knowledge. I'm going to drop some Joe knowledge here in a second.
But yeah, so I mean, Gavrikov's done pretty well. I mean, there was a play in game 1 where he broke up that 2-on-1 pass from McDavid and ended up being a Kempe goal. And there's a couple of plays where he's taking the right angles on him, and you can't totally stop McDavid. Like, you cannot keep him down for long, but the best you can do is just try to limit the chances a bit. You're not going to hold him to 0 points 5-on-5 for much longer. So you have to try and make him work for it at least. And so far he's making him work for it. And I'm going to be curious to see how the matchups go in this games 3 and 4 this weekend, because Kings have last change. Will they go with 8 and 44? They're going to go 84 and 3. I think it's best to go at this point, if it's working, go 3 and 84. But with the Oilers going 11-7 and one of Draisaitl and McDavid double shifting, it's going to make things even challenging for that bottom pair, or even Mike Anderson, Drew Doughty.
And we'll get to the bottom pair, which we'll talk about it here. And let me give Joe, you're itchy to say something, but let me give the group here one of your stats. And this is a Joe stat. He dropped it in our group chat by accident. And He said in last year's playoffs, there were 5 D-men that held McDavid to negative Corsi and held scoring chances pretty close to 50-50. Those 5 guys were Nikita Zadorov, Cale Makar, Devin Taves, Rasmus Anderson, and Noah Hannafin. And 4 of those guys played only 40-plus minutes again. Only Zadorov played less. So you need guys that can skate. You need guys that can stay with him where he's creating mismatches, and he does it. The entire league is his skill. It doesn't even look like he's moving his legs and he's 100 miles an hour out there. It's like he's the best player in hockey. We get it. And ESPN definitely tells us he's the best player in hockey. We don't stop hearing it for 60 minutes. But like, where are you going to create mismatches? I thought Gavrikov, with his lack of skating ability or lack of elite skating ability, has used his length and his stick in a great area. And when push comes to shove, he's all over people in the defensive zone, and he's done a great job 5-on-5. The penalty kills look horrible in my opinion, but
as expected.
Yeah, I mean, the best power play in all of hockey. So let's get to this on the other side, though. I thought let's stop with the doom and gloom and let's come with some positivity here. The Italian stallion is back. Joe Praterino was doing this all game, a little bit of gabagool, and Gabriel Velarde is back here on the third line. He came out in the break after his goal and said the first period was a little tough for him, a little faster than what he thought. Hell, he missed an entire month, and Edmonton was beating the crap out of us. So expected. But in the second period and third period, I thought Gabriel Velarde was our best player on the ice. In my opinion, created a lot of chances. Was good on the boards. Was defensively sound. Was creating opportunities on his own. Joe, your Italian counterpart there, man. What are you seeing from Gabriel Velarde in his first game back?
And it's funny. My family's talking about a trip back to the area where he and my wife's family is from in Calabria, actually. So maybe for next year. So maybe I'll try to find some Gabe Velarde's family over there. But he was fantastic. And to expect. I mean, this is where the Kings can really have that mismatch in the middle and bottom six, because you're going to have a difficult time stopping McDavid and Draisaitl. But when you can get Velarde back, and we talked about how well he's played with Blake Lazar and Alex Iafallo for that matter, they are a very legitimate third line, and especially if they can get Fiala back too, it really adds a lot of punch to that third line. But they were great. I mean, Velarde was on ice over 74% expected goals, over 60% possession numbers. He, I think it was 13-8 he had in scoring chances when he was on the ice. So, to hop back into it after missing as much time as he did on the road against that team, I thought he played a great game. That's huge for the Kings to get that player of that skill set back into the lineup. Gives them a threat down the lineup. And again, fingers crossed that they can get something with Fiala too, because that'll just lengthen the lineup a little bit more. So really, you have to be impressed with Gabe Velarde in that first game, or his first game back.
Kyle, what are you thinking about Gabe?
Was excited to see him back on the ice. The Kings, they didn't have in game one, they didn't have much skill set in the bottom six. So getting him back, it lengthens it out and it gets some time on the power play. Now, not having him on power play one is a different topic for a different day. I thought he should have been on power play one, given how the power play struggled besides those 2 goals. But he looked great in the third period. He was using his body as a shield, protecting along the boards a couple of times down low. He was moving his feet well. He looked really good out there. So that was great to see. Even got a goal in the second period. So was great to see Gabriel Velarde back. Hoping they can get Fiala back. I have my doubts about that, but having Gabe back lengthens the lineup, because the top 6, they're going to be challenged to play defense most of the game, stop number 29 and 97 of Edmonton. So having Gabriel Velarde into the lineup on the third line just lengthens down. You give that extra goal scoring in the bottom 6. 23 goals is not a fluke, and he got one yesterday. So having him back in the lineup just lengthens it out and gives the Kings more offense.
Joe, you brought up this on Twitter the other day, and I thought it was interesting. We didn't talk about it on the last pod, but with the lack of two quality power plays. And now Kaliev has been lighting it up on the power play, not so much 5-on-5, and we'll get to that in a second. But would you just overload the first power play? I mean, you're talking about, can you name a player on the second power play for Edmonton? You probably can't. So like, that's my point is that let's just load up on the first power play. They're going to get a minute every single round, if not a minute and a half, and really try to capitalize. Cause I thought it was a key of the series that our power play come to play, because the fact that the first game, 2 goals, great job. Second game, not so much. I mean, the power play couldn't even connect one pass, let alone multiple passes. So do you think that's a key going forward, is that maybe load up on the power play and get instead of trying to spread it out, just load it up and see what they can do?
Well, I think as they get healthier, they're able to have spread it out and it can still be effective. The reason I had said that was you have no Fiala, you have no Velarde at the time of that tweet, and it's like it seemed like they were still trying to operate with 2 power plays and having, they moved Arvidsson and Iafallo are on the top unit. So obviously that's with Kopitar and Kempe and Doughty, but they're still trying to have a guy like Kaliev, who was one of the better power play players of the season for the Kings in terms of goal scoring. You had Kaliev on the second unit, Byfield, who's played much, much better overall on the second unit. And my initial thought was they were just getting nothing at all generated. So rather than kind of have this, why not get the guys that have been playing well, like Byfield, and a guy like Kaliev, who has been lethal in the power play at times this season, just get them onto the first unit, or at least Kaliev. And ironically, I said to move Iafallo off because I didn't like what he was doing. He wasn't playing the bumper role, but then he did on the goal. So obviously, it ended up working. But my overall point was they didn't have the depth to try to spread it. Then that's where it is. I mean, if Velarde back, I do put him back on the top unit. If Fiala comes back, I do put him back on the top unit. And I know that, Iafallo just scored the goal in game 1 and Arvidsson, who has played well in that too, but what's more likely to succeed? And to me, it's Fiala and Velarde on the power play. And then you do have the capability of having perhaps a second unit with Dursey, with Iafallo in the bumper, maybe with more in the bumper, with Arvidsson, with Byfield. Then you have that you can work with too. So I would say, long-winded way, Randon, I think that is kind of loading up the first power play unit, though, right? In and of itself, because you've got Byfield, or you've got Doughty, you've got Kopitar, you've got Kempe, you've got Fiala, like that.
Loading up via health, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So in general, I think it's best to try to load up one as best as you can. I think most of the better power plays in the league do that. And I think that's probably the way to go.
So I think what we need to go here is let's go to our esteemed sponsors here at DraftKings. It's NBA playoffs time, meaning big hoops action with DraftKings Sportsbook, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Get it on with excitement of every game with the touch of the button. New customers can bet $5 pre-game money line. Bet and score $150 in free bets if their team wins. Plus, everybody can score no sweat game parlay every 8 days during the NBA playoffs. Open the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Opt in the same game parlay in an NBA game. If it doesn't hit, you get a bonus bet up to $10. Do you want to bet the Sacramento Kings to close out the Golden State Warriors? Are you betting the Lakers, the Clippers tonight? Call to action is download the app now, and you can make those bets with the code THPN. New customers can bet just $5 pre-game money line and bet and score $150 in bonus bets if their team wins. Only at DraftKings Sportsbook with code THPN. Eligibility restrictions may apply.
LA Kings plus 120 home underdogs at DraftKings as of right now for game 3. And to put that into context, they closed plus 210 at DraftKings for game 2 and plus 170 for game 1. So obviously definitely getting some shaded their way for home ice. So we'll see what happens in game 3.
All right. Next game, we're going to be talking about what happened in game 2 and maybe transitions into game 3. Some sour spots here. First sour spot, Jersey, right? We got Jerseyed multiple times there, Joe and Kyle. Don't like to see it. The Jerseyisms come with good offensive play. We didn't really see that. It was just mistake after mistake. Where are you feeling with Jersey? Is it because he's paired with Edler? We talked about that. They're not great 5-on-5. They're great on the penalty kill together. Kind of a little awkward pair we got going on here. Is it time for hashtag not my Walker? Are we telling the Colts out there that Brant Clark is no longer theirs? We pulling up Jordan Spence. How are we feeling about the third D pair? Because it's definitely a sore spot coming to this game.
I would say we're not feeling very good about it because it hasn't been good. Not surprised, but I think it's I empathize with Todd McClellan because it's a tricky spot because the pair stinks at 5-on-5. They did last year. They do again this year. It just hasn't worked at 5-on-5. But you've got both of them are pretty good penalty killers, and Jersey is still somebody that's a threat on the second power play. So it's really tough to not have that pair out there. And I actually kind of think that we're going to see the pair again. I don't know this, obviously. My guess is that McClellan will roll back with him at home. Maybe in an effort to, because he has last change, can control the matchups just a little bit more. So I think he may give that another run just to see. But I mean, personally, I do think Jersey Walker's a better pair, and I would prefer that at 5-on-5. But I understand McClellan wanting to have as many of his top penalty killers available to him when you're playing against the best penalty kill or power play in arguably NHL history. So the pair has him a good 5-on-5, hopefully at home with some favorable matchups or more favorable matchups. It works a little bit better. But yeah, it hasn't been good. It just hasn't. It hasn't been.
Joe gives the astute analysis. Kyle, you get a little more vitriol here. You taking out Jersey? You yanking out Edler? What do you got going on here, Kyle?
I don't want to see that pair on the ice ever again if I had the chance. So, one thing about Edmonton is that one of their biggest assets is they can skate. And the Jersey Walker pair, well, neither of them are really good skaters. Edler's old. Jersey seems like he's I don't know what's wrong with his skating sometimes, but yeah, they're just not doing well. Even on the power play, Jersey sometimes is passing, he makes those mistakes where you're just what are you seeing out there? I mean, opening night was a great example of what he did. Unfortunately, I was there at that game, so not a good thing. But yeah, I would actually bring in Sean Walker in at this point. Unfortunately, I can't believe I'm actually saying that in 2023, but I'd bring in Sean Walker over Sean Jersey at this point.
Kyle, I'm cutting that clip and posting on Twitter for everybody to see.
All right.
Hey, Walker, I think we grew to appreciate him, I think, around these parts. I don't think he's a bad option. I just think if you're Todd McClellan, you say, okay, let's take out Edler and we have Jersey Walker. What does that do to our penalty kill? And does it matter? I mean, if Edmonton's going to get theirs on the power play, does it matter? I don't know. You want more at 5-on-5? I lean 5-on-5 there,
especially in this series.
Yeah, I can understand where McClellan's coming from though. So it is a tough spot. It's a tough spot. I'll say I'll be surprised at a change for Game 3, but wouldn't be surprised if later in the series, if it continues to struggle, maybe there's something.
And Todd's just going to go with who he's going to trust at this point. I mean, if he feels like he trusts Edler and Jersey, that's what it's going to be. So,
and I want to add, you'd mentioned it, Kyle, earlier, and I think it's a really, really good observation. Not every team can run 11-7 and be effective. Edmonton, they're better suited for 11-7 for multiple reasons. One, you get McDavid. You can really play around.
McDavid and Draisaitl for 25 plus minutes a night.
Yeah. The other side of it is the number 7 that you're adding is a really good number 7 in Phil Broberg. I love this kid.
Same here.
So you're getting, I'm sure you've seen a good chunk of him when he was down in Bakersfield. So, yeah, I remember seeing him a lot in Bakersfield last year. So it actually kind of helps them in multiple ways where you can get McDavid and Draisaitl on the ice a bit more, and you can have an improved defenseman added to the lineup. So that does create an issue for the Kings when it comes to matching. Now, they are at home, so they're going to have a little bit more. We'll see what Edmonton decides to do. I think they should just keep them at 11-7. I would have done 11-7 in game one, and they didn't do it. But I think that's a team that is well suited to do that, and it does make things a little bit trickier.
And they did it a lot last year too.
Mm-hmm.
So I think Woodcroft would do it again.
They did it a lot during the season. They ran 11-7 quite a bit. So it's especially in the second half of the season.
As much as Kings fans don't like McDavid or Draisaitl, like they're the horses. And when you had a chariot that is the Oilers franchise, you ride your horses. And I mean, they should go 11-7. I mean, it suits them. And granted, playing every other day for 4 series might wear down on McDavid and Draisaitl, but that's what you're getting. That's what you're getting paid for.
Yeah,
right? Draisaitl's getting paid over $10 million.
These guys are horses.
McDavid's getting their horses. Like it's just, it is what it is. And Joe, as you said it, and as ESPN said it 1,000 times, Draisaitl's ankle's healthy. So every Kings fan knows that his ankle's healthy this time.
Can I say real quick, Rando?
Yes.
I get it. I'm watching these ESPN games too, and it's Edmonton centric, you could say. I just want to say, like,
it's an Edmonton broadcast.
I don't have a problem with it. The NHL does a really poor job at promoting their stars. You have 2 of the best players on the planet playing in Edmonton. They should be pumping the tires of Connor McDavid. They absolutely should be. Where I get a little bit frustrated sometimes is, Buccigross, when the Kings score, it's almost like a legit disappointment. There was a couple of Korpisalo saves where he was like disappointed that Korpisalo made the save, or at least that's how it sounded. So
the entire second period intermission, the entire broadcast was like, man, the Kings are back in this game. We're so disappointed that the Edmonton's not running. It's like they were openly saying that they were disappointed with the King. It's just bad. I understand. Like they should pump their tires. I mean, if you're going with baseball, like MLB has ruined Mike Trout's career because the fact that they don't pump his tire. He's the best player I've ever seen pick up a baseball bat live in real life. And like you couldn't pick his name out on the street if you were walking by him on the boardwalk in Santa Monica. So like it's just travesty. And so, yeah, I agree with you, Joe. I mean, I understand that what ESPN is doing. I know that they're probably gearing towards that by telling us that McDavid doesn't have a goal in this many games and all this kind of stuff like that. But dude, if you can't even pronounce the Kings players' names correctly, if you don't even have stats geared towards it, if you're looking like my biggest thing is Weeks on the broadcast was like, Danault is a monster. He's holding, McDavid to this and this and that. His game is he does this. He doesn't say anything that he does well. He goes, his game is Jonathan Toews. Like he doesn't even give him accolades for his own game. He says he plays like another player who he doesn't even play like. I don't think his game and Jonathan Toews are even remotely similar. They're defensive minded, that they play a two-way game. Like that's all you can base it off of. Like it bothers me a lot that it seems like ESPN doesn't do their research on both teams to where you can actually give Kings fans who are watching the game a quality viewing environment by knowing what's going on with half the roster on the ice. So that's my biggest thing. It's not that they're eccentric. It's not that McDavid is the best player in the world. It's not that Draisaitl and McDavid are top 5 players and they should be highlighted because they should be. That's what's good for hockey. But when you don't know anything about the Kings game, you don't know anything about the Kings players, and you're bringing up stuff like, oh, well, the Kings have won cups. Like, of course they've won cups. Like any Neanderthal who's ever watched hockey knows they've won cups. Like, let's get into this. Like, know the players. Know where Gabe Vilardi's come from. They didn't once mention his back issues. Hey, Gabe Vilardi scored a goal first time in the play, blah, 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 or this or that, or came back from injury. He's out for a month. Like, they don't know anything about that. Like, it just seemed very poorly researched, which is a shame, in my opinion.
And I'd like to add one thing. ESPN absolutely sucks at their hockey coverage. They suck at it. The only thing I think they care about is basketball, and TNT for me is better. Watching the series last year on ESPN, it was just ruthless to watch. Luckily, I got the Bally Sports app this year, so don't have to deal with them.
Well, ESPN, if you're looking for a sponsorship, Kyle will change his tune if you send some money our way. Anyways, let's get into our fourth line here after that diatribe from all of us. Kaliev, rocketing 98 mile an hour on the power play, slap shots, one-timers. You know what? Let's get into that real quick because I thought it was great because the slap shot by Doughty, and it's like 86 miles an hour, man. He put everything he had into it. And you're seeing Kaliev like off his back foot with a wrist shot hitting 98. Like this kid has a lethal shot. We all knew this. It's just when you put the miles per hour to it, it's just ridiculous. But 5-on-5, atrocious. Joe, his defensive acumen was praised last season about how much he's improved. He just seemed flat-footed all night. Like he's getting caught in between different players, not playing his position soundly, not playing the half wall correctly. What are you seeing out of Kaliev, and can he be directly held responsible for maybe 1 or 2 goals in this game?
I don't want to say directly. It's being a little harsh because there's multiple.
I'm trying to be harsh. Yeah.
There's multiple things that happen in a situation. The first goal gets the play along the wall, and it's just too easy. It's just coming off. It's just too lackadaisical, for lack of a better term. I don't mean to imply that he's lazy. That's not what I'm going. Just for lack of a better term. And it comes back the other way. And he wasn't the only one who made a mistake. I mean, Grundstrom got toasted by Draisaitl on that goal too. So again, it's not just on Kaliev. You look at the third goal. Again, it's just not hard enough. You know, when you're in a tie game on the road, game 2, you're up in the series. Like it's just not enough. You need more. And the turnover in the neutral zone, it goes back the other way. It's just, and again, I know he wasn't solely at fault. Like Kapari was on the ice too. Durzi maybe didn't make things that easy for Korpisalo. You also want Korpisalo to kind of make that save. So it's not all on Kaliev. But when that goal went in to make it 3-2, so as you know, Rando, I'm an assistant coach on a high school team here, and I run the forwards. The first thing that came into my mind when that goal went in the net is my head coach looking at me and saying, "He's done," alluding to Kaliev, like done, not seeing the ice the rest of the game because it's not, and he didn't touch the ice the rest of the game. I didn't expect him to. So I am fully expecting a change from on the fourth line with Todd McClellan making Kaliev come out of the lineup. I think we've seen Kaliev be in the press box in the past. We've seen Kaliev, have to watch some games because it's just not enough at 5-on-5. And I think that's held true. I don't mean to scapegoat him. I don't mean to say it's his fault. There isn't enough right now from Arthur Kaliev. Now, if Fiala is healthy to go, that makes the decision really easy. If he's not, who comes in? Is it McEwen? Is it Anderson Dolan? I would be really surprised for McClellan to put LaFerriere in. So who comes in is a next part of the conversation. But I don't mean for it to be a scapegoat on Kaliev, but you got to have more. There needs to be more out of him. And we're not seeing it on the power play. The production isn't there on the power play to warrant the 5-on-5 struggles right now. And I think McClellan is going to need to lean on a guy and needs to trust his guys. And I don't know that Kaliev is bringing it right now enough to stay in the lineup.
Kyle, would you agree? Is his power play presence enough to keep him in, or we just get a little switch up here?
I say you guys switch it up. Before the series, I tweeted out saying that these three players, Byfield, Kapari, and Kaliev, they're going to have to bring something. If they're not scoring, they're going to have to bring something. So far, Byfield, he's got an assist. He's thrown his weight around a few times. The other two, they really haven't done much for me 5-on-5. And if you're going to play under Tom McClellan's system, you have to play 5-on-5. And especially in this series, you got to play 5-on-5. And they were the two players that had Kaliev and Kapari had the least amount of ice time, I believe, last night. Kaliev, I think, finished with like 6 or 8 minutes. Kapari around that time as well. So one of them is going to get switched out. I think it's going to be Kaliev, just that his skating doesn't look right in this series. I don't think it's going to bode well for him. Personally, if I was making a switch, I'd try and bring in Jarrett Anderson Dolan. I'm not a big Zach McEwen fan. Sorry if he's watching. I'm sorry. But I say a switch has to be made. I mean, power play isn't played for 60 minutes. 5-on-5 is played for most of the game. You have to have someone that's going to be in there to play 5-on-5.
If you're not putting Kaliev on the first power play to give him opportunities, then what's the point? Like, he's getting 20 seconds on the power play at that point. Like for me, it's coming to this, and I love Jad. Jad and I've been pumping his tires. I think he should get power play time. There's times in sports where players make big plays. There's times in sports where the unknown comes out of the ashes, and I think it's LaFerriere time. He's done nothing but score. He led Harvard with one other guy, and his name escapes me at this point, to the Frozen Four and all this kind of stuff like that. I mean, he can't do any worse with 7 or 8 minutes of playing time on the ice. I honestly think he'd pair well with Rasmus Kupari. And this is just me, because knowing T-Mac, if he was watching, which he's not, he'd be rolling his eyes at me through the screen because he's going to go with veteran presence. But I mean, why not? Like, what do you got to lose? It's 7 minutes a night or 8 minutes a night. Like, this guy could give you a spark. Like, this guy is hungry. If anybody listened to any of his interviews coming in when he got signed, he's ready to go. He's a smart dude. He's ready to go. Not that Jared Anderson-Dolan is not, but this team needs something. This team needs something going to the crypt. And no offense to just getting home ice advantage, it has to come from the locker room before it comes from the fans.
Yeah.
And I think maybe that spark and some from the bottom six is going to be warranted. And do I think it's a high percentage of happening? No, I don't. I think it's probably going to be Jared Anderson-Dolan, which nothing wrong with that. I would go a different direction.
I don't disagree. Like, it'd be. I mean, I know Matthew Nyes did play a couple of regular season games, but the Leafs just threw Nyes into game 2 tonight against Tampa Bay. Again, I know we did have a couple of regular season games. So McClellan, I think, is going to lean on a guy that he probably trusts. And I don't know how much he trusts Kaliev. Again, he was a healthy scratch for, at multiple times this season, which is why I tend to think that the performance from game 2 could really do in Kaliev, at least for game 3, unless McClellan's going to say, listen, we're back at home. We're going to give you another shot. You got to be better. And you got to, it's got to be a better performance. But I do agree that I'd go with Anderson-Dolan. I do worry that it could be McEwen. I think I can see enough of a narrative to get him into the lineup to throw the weight around and run around and hit some guys. I don't think it's the right move, but
well, Joe, let's say this. Size has been an issue with this series. I mean, and you're not a big fan of size or the emphasis on size, so to speak. But it's apparent on the ice. If you take out Edler because of his lack of skating and put in Walker Jersey and move Jersey to the other side, because as much as we want Jersey to play 5-on-5, his power play presence is needed. Then you undersize your team. Is McEwen worth that exchange, or you don't care at that point? You just want the best skaters on the ice.
I want the best skaters, and listen, you said it, and I don't put a ton of stock into it, and maybe this is a blind spot by me, and maybe I'm wrong. Simply put, that you need guys that are big. I mean, I think you need to be able to withstand the physical play. I don't think you need to necessarily be the initiator, but you need to be able to physically, protect the puck and do things like make plays and handle pressure. I mean, if McEwen goes out there and plays 7 minutes, picks up 5 hits, and that's it, I don't know. I guess. I mean, I'm looking for somebody to possibly make a play, and I think Anderson-Dolan at least can possibly make a play.
Well, let me pose it. Let me pose it this way: if they're going to go 11-7, then the fourth line is going to come across Draisaitl, McDavid multiple times during the game. Who do you trust offensively?
Anderson-Dolan.
There you go.
I'm assuming if it's between Anderson-Dolan and
all the options: Kaliev, Anderson-Dolan, McEwen, LaFerriere.
I trust Anderson-Dolan the most. That said, like, I'm with you. Like, I'd be intrigued at a LaFerriere into this lineup. And again, the wild card here that makes this whole conversation easier is if Kevin Fiala gets back in. I think that puts the nail in the Arthur Kaliev coffin, at least in the short term, because I don't think the other thing with Kapari, I know people talked about Kapari. There's no other guy that's going to play. I don't think they're going to put Anderson Dolan in to play fourth line center at this point. He's played center, but
there's been nothing wrong with Kapari. He could have been the hero of this game if that puck was a quarter of an inch shorter off the ball.
Yeah, I got no issues with. I should say no issues. It's not like he's played great, but I'm with you. I think Kapari's fine. I think he's holding his own. I think what hasn't helped is the wingers haven't been great either. So the whole line has not been good. The whole fourth line has got to be better. We talked about coming into the series. The bottom six needs to be good. We had a great performance out of the third line. The fourth line's got to be better. Simply put.
Where are you at on this fourth line there, Kyle? Is it Jad? Is it you want some new stuff, LaFerriere? And where do you think T-Mac's going to go?
I just want to get back to your point on LaFerriere. I'm a big fan of his, and he does bring some good skating and some grit into this series. So he isn't afraid to throw his weight around. So I mean, could Todd trust him? Like, say, hey, your first game is going to be an NHL playoff game, like Cale Makar did for the Avs, or is he going to be in the press box? I personally would just say it's going to be Jared Anderson Dolan just because he's been around longer. I don't think T-Mac trusts LaFerriere yet. I mean, I'm not opposed to the idea.
It's going to be Cale Makar if he gets in the.
No. I don't think anyone's going to be Cale Makar. I think he's the best defenseman right now. But getting back to LaFerriere, one day maybe Todd will trust him. I just don't think that time is right now. Yeah, especially with a team like Edmonton, you're going to have to go with the guys you trust. And maybe he does run the lab. Last year, we saw Todd McLellan make a couple of changes between games 2 and 3. He took out Byfield, put in Kapari, and then after game 3, going to game 4, Spence got taken out for Troy Stetcher. So, I mean, it's possible LaFerriere can play. I mean, expect the unexpected at this time of the year.
We're assuming, and I know me especially, to me, again, the history where Kaliev is sat, the mistakes that were made, he was benched the rest of the game. Like, to me, all this is there's no margin for error right now. We are now in what is a best of 5 series. I would be surprised if Kaliev is in this lineup in game 3. Do you guys think he's going to be in, or do you guys think he's out?
I think he's out.
I would say 85% he's out.
I think he's out.
But T-Mac is stubborn. He has been a stubborn coach in the past where he's afraid. Maybe not afraid is the right word, but he is stern with his decisions. And,
well, I think.
But then Kyle said last playoffs he was open to decisions. So
I think he's a little bit more leeway with veterans than he is with young players. To me, that's
fair enough.
My view. Yeah, that's my view. I could be wrong.
I think the other side of this is you could use the we're going home. We're back home. Kind of a reset, if you will, right? You can look at this as a reset, and that includes the guys that didn't play very well. You want to talk about the third pair, you want to talk about the fourth line. They could use game 3 as a back home reset. Let's get it right. And then if there's another poor game, we'll see changes in game 4, perhaps. Well, I can see maybe that being a possibility, but we'll see.
To me, I wouldn't wait to make changes just because if you lose game 3, you're going down 2-1. It may be a little too late. So if it has to be done right now, I would say do it.
Don't disagree with that.
Hageni coming in here saying Walker can at least break the pucks out of the zone. He's really good at that. So that's been a major issue, not only with the third pair, second pair, first pair. Like the exiting of our own zone has been an issue. It didn't seem last game that any of the Kings players have ever played hockey before because they couldn't make a tape-to-tape pass. They couldn't even make a 10-foot pass. And give Edmonton credit, they're checking, forechecking, back checking, front checking, whatever you want to check. They were on it all game. Like they were disrupting all game long. They didn't take timeouts on that. Even when we were tied 2-2 and everybody was wondering what was going on, they were still putting pressure on us. It was like it seemed hard to even get out of our zone for basic stuff. When Edmonton was even changing, sometimes we'd have 3 people back there and Edmonton would have 1 player pressing us and we'd have trouble making passes. Walker, for all the crap that Kings fans want to give him, that's one of his best strong suits is corralling the puck, finding the right man and exiting the zone. Joe, we've talked about this ad nauseum with that pair, because if we want to go the timeline, beginning of the season, Walker not great. Middle of the season, Walker was excellent, and then he's leveled off. But he's always been good at that one suit. Do you think that he needs to get put in the game at some point to just help the team push the puck to the other end?
I am somebody that I don't like the strategy of we have some, because the way the defense group is set up and the way they are, they're playing his style of, they do the 1-3-1 through the neutral zone. They kind of clog it. They keep things to the outside. If things are going well, they keep things to the outside. But they're letting the team into the zone. Well, not letting them into the zone. I shouldn't say that. When they get in the zone, though, they're comfortable kind of just defending and not, to your point, not making plays to get up and out of the zone. They're much more able to willing to just get the puck and throw it into the neutral zone and hope your forwards skate into it. I don't love that. It has worked for the Kings. It's just tough against Edmonton. So, yeah, I prefer to not play in the defensive zone. And I want guys that are capable puck movers that are calm on the puck, that don't just throw the puck around, and they look to make a play with the puck to get out of the zone. Walker does do that better than, say, Alex Edler. Again, I like the Durzi Walker pair. I think it has performed okay. It's not something that scares me, and I know. Listen, I think if there's ever a time to do it, it's perhaps at home, and you can kind of get a feel for it. This way, you can pick and choose the matchups a little bit more. I would. Again, I know Edler with the penalty kill, but I'm going to go for the 5-on-5 and have a Durzi Walker pair.
What do you think, Kyle? I mean, Edler is not really, he's bringing the size, but he's not really utilizing that size in the nature that we need to. Is it better to have some skaters and some puck movers?
I know Edler brings size, and I know size is a big thing in LA Kings fan land right now with the way the series is going. But, you can't be playing in your own zone against Edmonton. Alex Edler is just, not the pair of him and Durzi are not doing really good. And like you guys mentioned, Sean Walker is really great at his zone exits, and that's what the Kings need. I mean, how many passes, like a simple exit, turned into like difficulty because Edmonton was forechecking? A lot of them. All game, like 60 minutes. Even the when Durzi iced that puck, it should have been an easy pass in my opinion, and it ended up missing. So I'd say give Walker a chance. I'm surprised Edler's actually even playing in this series, considering how Edmonton's fast and Edler's, given where he's at in his age, I don't think he can be skating with this kind of team. If they were playing a big physical team, yeah, you might see Alex Edler in the lineup, but I wouldn't oppose to be Durzi Walker. I don't think they'll play that much anyway. Maybe one of them Todd will probably run 5 defensemen at one point late in the game, but I wouldn't be opposed to it. And let's just say, like hypothetically, if it's Walker or Edler, Sean Walker actually last year ran power play too before he got hurt at ACL. So if you take out Durzi, are you missing anything on that power play for the second hit? Probably not, but
you're missing a little bit, but like I said, with Callie,
but
it's only 20 seconds, 30 seconds of shift, right? Like that's not a lot.
Yeah, it's not a lot. But if you take Slot and Walker for Edler, you get more skating in there. You get the zone exits, zone retrievals. So I think Alex Edler, no disrespect, he's had a good career, very good defenseman. If you're able to play in this league for a while, you've done something right. But at this point in this series, I don't think the style fits him at this point.
And just for a little context, in the regular season, Durzi Walker was 73% expected goals in over 53 minutes of ice time.
Joe, get out of here with your stats, man.
You guys, you're going to love Brandon. You're going to love this. Ready for this, Brandon?
Yes.
The top 4 Kings D. I just noticed I'm on Money Puck right now, and I just had to laugh. The top 4 D pairs, okay, in expected goals, 3 of them have Sean Walker on them.
I'm loving Sean Walker right now. Right now, I'm clamming for Sean Walker. You know,
It helps his favor on that one.
Sean Walker is your girlfriend or a girl who is not great looking, but she treats you well. She cooks for you. She calls you every night. She tells you that you're worth it. Sometimes a man, that's all you need. And that's all the Kings need right now is a person that can put the puck out of our own zone and hit a player with a tape-to-tape pass. That's all I'm asking for. Side note, my third pair would be Spence Marvari, but that's never going to happen. So not this year, no.
Not this year.
But I don't know why, because the Kings should not be worried about waivers when we're trying to win a Stanley Cup.
Bring that guy from Barrie, like you said. Bring up that guy from Barrie.
I don't know who that is. All I know is I'm the conductor to his train. Let's get into this Nick Vroman comment here. Is this team too soft? And this might be an off-season question here with the roster construction and all this kind of stuff like that. But I think this is a note here is that Edmonton's got the perfect hybrid right now. They got a lot of size. They have tons of skill. They have tons of speed. They can play any facet of any game that any team throws at them and play it better than they can. So this is not saying that we can't beat Edmonton, but I'm saying that we have to play our style of hockey more consistently in order to do so. And that it's not about size, Nick Vroman. It's not about, hey, we need to get the biggest guy to hit. Although I will be talking to all of our draft experts in the offseason, Scott Wheeler, Chris Peters, thank you always for coming on the pod and the great work that you do. Because I want a guy who can score and get that grit and sandpaper, the Marchands and all that kind of stuff. I want that in our prospect pool, and we'll talk about in the offseason. But where the roster is constructed now, we're not seeing the hits from Grunstrom. We're not seeing that heavy play from Grunstrom, that rat nature that we go to expect. And there's none of those players on the top six. Although I will have to give it to Byfield, he's been laying the wood in this playoff a little bit with the heavy hits. I don't know. My mind is going all kinds of places, and I'm trying to condense it here, Joe. And I know you're ready to speak. Does this team need more focused physicality in order to compete with Edmonton?
So I guess that's where, like, what does the question mean? It's a fair question, but what exactly what do you mean when you mean soft? Do you want the Kings to go out and hit everything that moves and lead, win the hit battle, if you will, in the games? Like, is that what you're looking for? Or are you just looking for, if somebody when the whistle blows or scrums, do you want your guys to be involved in that? Do you want your guys sticking up for your guys? Like, I guess this can go in a lot of different ways. When you look at just hits in the 2 games, Edmonton has 9 more hits. Is that a lot? I don't know. LA has the second most hits in the playoffs. This is the most physical series in terms of the hits statistics per NHL.com in the playoffs. Is this one? I don't know. Is that good enough? So that's where I'm like, I just don't know. I don't know I just don't know exactly what it means, I guess, and what the.
Well, then take it to what you think it means. Does the team need to be more physical?
So
against Edmonton, against our current opponent, do they need to be more physical? Do they need to play with a little more grit, or do you think it's just we're getting outclassed and we're not good enough in the skill portion of the game?
Well, again, I mean, I think 9 more hits is not exactly. I don't know. I'm not losing sleep over that, especially the way that statistic is measured. Because the other part of it is when you're talking about just hits, I always hesitate a little bit at that because, to me, it's like, well, if you're throwing a lot of hits, that means you don't have the puck very often.
Yeah.
So I kind of equate that to block shots, and it's like, it's great you're blocking shots. I'd rather just have the puck though. So I don't mean I get it. Like there's you need to hit and you need to. That's why I'm a little surprised at how many hits Edmonton has because of how the possession that they've had, which makes me think the guy doing the stat tracking and in Edmonton is maybe giving them hitting the button a little too much when it comes to hits, frankly. So do they need to be able to? You need to be able to win puck battles. So when I think of I see somebody in the comment, Shankmaster, talk about heavy. The Kings of old were a heavy, slower team. They've obviously transitioned into a much more skilled team, I would say, and a faster team. But it's hard to have both. I mean, when I think of heavy, I think of Anze Kopitar, right? He is big. He can skate. He's not the fastest guy in the world. He's not a guy that throws his weight around, right? He's not going to lead any hits. He is impossible to knock off the puck. He protects the puck well. He's strong along the wall. Like, you want to be able to play as best as you can in that way. And there's times where the Kings, yeah, that is a bit of a weak spot. I think there's times where Blake Lizotte, Kapari, Trevor Moore, Arthur Kaliev, they don't play heavy enough. So that's how I look at it. I don't know if that answers the question or what, but it can go. It just depends on what you're actually looking for.
It doesn't. Kyle, what do you think about this topic?
I see it a lot on Twitter. I gotta know what part of the question is. Is it because no one went after Connor McDavid and Anderson got hit from behind last month, or is it they don't hit enough? So I know that's been a question. It was a question a lot last season, if I remember, especially during the series. But I mean, I don't think they've been soft this series. I think they've actually held in there nicely with the physicality. But well, I don't think so. Maybe it gets addressed in the offseason, but right now I don't think they are soft, like mentally or physically yet. So
I'll take this. I know what I think it is we don't have Dustin Brown. Dustin Brown's a unicorn. Dustin Brown is a unicorn. In our playoff series, he's a top 6 winger who would lay the body, right? You have that both. Ovechkin, not afraid to put the pucks in the net and score. Matthew Tkachuk, Brady Tkachuk. Marchand. All those guys are able to do those things. Tom Wilson, right? All those guys are willing to mix it up and score at will. We just don't have that player on our team. Is that a good or bad thing? I don't know. But it doesn't mean we can't win. But it doesn't mean we match up great with Evander Kane. It doesn't mean we match up great with the Oilers, who have those types of players. Like I said, it's not good or bad. It's just we just don't have that roster player. And we get used to it for over a decade? Yes, we did. Dustin Brown, Hall of Fame, all-time king. The team just doesn't have that roster composition at the moment. And there's very few of those players. Like I named 5. And I can't name any more. I mean, Joe, you know the NHL better than I do. I mean, you had an encyclopedia. Like, how many more of those guys are out there that can score 50+ points and are agitators or physical guys like that? There's just not many of those guys out there.
Yeah, there's not. And if you're looking at just from like a hits statistic, the top 10 teams in hits, I think there's one playoff team in hits per 60, and the only team that's in the playoffs is I think the Islanders. I think that's it. Yeah, the other 9 teams are watching. So again, what does that mean? I don't know. They probably don't have the puck a lot, so they have to hit a lot. And if you don't have the puck a lot, chances are you're going to lose the game.
Nick Roman come out with an explanation here. Players being pushed around, knocked off pucks, etc., able to hit and grind with the other team. Kings have showed grit. So maybe he's not saying physically hit or that type of thing, but you think we've been pushed around a lot this series?
So I think he's kind of referencing what Shankmaster is in playing a heavier game and just being more difficult physically to play against. Not necessarily that you're going out and hitting or anything like that. And yeah, like again, I think it's a fair criticism that there's at times where guys are pushed off the puck a little too easily, and I think you saw that frankly with Kaliev on. It was kind of what I was alluding to earlier. It's not enough. It wasn't hard enough on the puck that led to turnovers, which eventually led to goals. So I don't disagree. I think the question's fair. I don't know because I don't know. I don't have a good answer though as to are they soft enough. I don't know. What I will say is they're in a tricky spot, particularly against Edmonton, because they don't have the skill to outskill Edmonton, and they don't have the size and kind of the heaviness to push them around that way too. So very. You're right. It's a tough. Guys, Edmonton's the best team in the Western Conference. Okay, so this is a tough matchup in this series for a multitude of reasons. And if the Kings can get past this, they got a legit shot to go to the Cup. But the reason that's the case is because Edmonton is that good.
But I want us to play competitive.
Of course,
competitive. Yeah. I have one more thing before we get on to a little bit of the Salt Bay sprinkle of the rain game here we got going on. Is Big Junts comes in here, put Velarde in the second line. Moore was not looking good in my opinion. Velarde would be a great fit. I will say this, and this is going to be a deep discussion for the offseason, and I'll come up with more stats and more points to this, but I think Moore might be the worst contract on the LA Kings.
Cal Peterson like to have a word with that.
And I just think that he's not adding anything to this game. As much as he's puck counting this and that, like those are the attributes you're not putting with a second line player. And I would like to see Gabe Velarde put on the second line. I don't care if he plays on the off wing. I don't care if Arvidsson plays off the off wing. He needs more minutes. And maybe the third line will get more minutes with him having that wind underneath him and having been acclimated. But Trevor Moore isn't getting it done for me. And I think it's a fast overpay.
Sorry to cut you off there. I was looking at one of his Velarde's J Fresh cards. His defense at even strength has actually been pretty well this year. So
really good.
With the top six being challenged to stop McDavid and Draisaitl defensively, it'll be a little tough matchup for him. But I think he can hold his own there, and he brings a little bit of offense in that top six. So I actually like that idea.
I want to hold off any criticism. Not criticism because it's fair. I mean, these guys are pros. You can criticize. That's reasonable. But I think Moore is not 100%. I think he's not hurt. I think he's hurt. Whether it's a lingering thing from what he had in the earlier or what. I kind of agree, Shank Master. It's not dissimilar to what we saw with Iafallo, I feel like, last season, where Iafallo's had a much better season this year, although he got hurt earlier. But, he tailed off big time the second half of last year. He played hurt. Something tells me Moore is just something's not right. I wonder if whenever the season comes to an end, if we're going to find out that he's got to deal with something this offseason. Maybe not a surgery, but he's been dealing with something for a while. I think he's hurt.
So let's get into this because all fans want the lineup changes or the lineup cards here. Maybe it's not Velarde going up to the second line. What would you say to maybe Iafallo going up to the second line? Third line is Lizotte, Velarde, and Grundstrom, and put Moore down to the fourth line.
I would if that's what you're going to do. I'd actually just swap Iafallo and Moore. I mean, Moore has been an effective player in terms of shot contributions, and when you pair those two with Velarde, Lizotte, and Moore with Velarde, I think that could work. So if you're looking to jumble some things up on that second line and move Moore down, I can live with that. But we'll see if they actually do that.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think let's get into the keys of the game or game 3, and then we'll talk a little bit about the rain. We'll go one by one. Kyle, what are your keys to game 3, and how do the Kings win game 3?
Play a full 60 minutes, get some scoring from the bottom 6, convert on your power plays, and kill off penalties. Those are going to be 3: special teams, start, and the bottom 6 scoring depth.
So what do you
can't chase the game. They're playing with fire, chasing the 2 games, and they got away with it with 1. They can't chase the game. Obviously, the special teams is a good point, Kyle. It goes without saying. I think a lot of times too, just because of how good their Edmonton's power play is, and you got to find a way to get pucks out a little bit cleaner and spend some more time in Edmonton's zone. Too much time is spent defending right now. They gotta be a little bit more the other way.
I would say my number one is getting the crypto.com arena into the game early. Whether it's a big hit, whether it's a goal, whether it's just constant pressure, hopefully it's all 3. I think crypto's got to be rocking and give them the juice to go into it. No, I mean, not that the players need to get up for a playoff game, but everybody feels the energy. It's in the arena when it's going hard, and they just got to get into it. I mean, the last game was brutal watching it. Like, it was painful watching it on TV, let alone in the arena, and that can't happen again. So I think that's the number one thing. Two would be scoring from the bottom six and just make a pass. Get out of your own zone. Like, if the offensive game can't be great, let's just get zone exits. Like, that would be my thing. Zone exits and get crypto rocking. That would be my two keys of the game here.
Perfect.
So let's sprinkle it over. Let's toss it over to Ontario Reign. Obviously, they lost the first game here in OT. Kyle, just give us a little overview of what you saw from the game. Where do you think the Reign can improve? And, just everybody's hot topic, how did Alex Turcotte look in his playoff? So
I'll start with the overview. I thought the Reign, they played a pretty good game. Colorado came out, they're a really good defensive team this year. So so they were able to hold off the Storm for the first few minutes of the game. Actually outshot them 18-4 in the second period. I mean, they had a few power plays here mixed in between that period. But I thought they played a great game. I wrote in the game recap, it's a game of bounces. Like, in the overtime, Spence rang one off the post, and moments later, the puck ends up back over the shoulder of Cal Peterson, top corner. So one thing I was a little disappointed at was Colorado was batting 1,000 on the special teams. They killed off 4 Reign power plays, and they scored their only power play with 1 second left on it that went off a stick and floated over the right shoulder of Cal Peterson. Nothing he can do there. But they played great. Nate Thompson, Tyrell Goldberg, bottom 6 contributed with some goals. So that was good to see. But Alex Turcotte, I thought he played really well, looked skating well, took a hit, was able to bounce back from it, played 200-foot game. But one player I was really, really impressed with was Andre Lee. He threw a couple of hits, wasn't afraid to muck it up. Actually threw a reverse hit in the third period that knocked a short guy down. So he's if there's one player I've been really impressed with this year is him. He's made some really great strides this year. He's added some physicality to his game. He's skating well, and I've just been really happy for him this year.
The Giraffe laying it down, not backing down from the Lions on the ice. Well, hopefully the Reign and the Kings get it back on track here. Thank you guys for coming into the chat and playing. Joe, you came up to the mic like you were wanting to say something before I close it out.
I just want to ask, because I know I usually when we talk about the Reign, I always have to ask about what arguably one of my favorite prospects, but it's been kind of a struggle for Helge Grans. I know he was not in the lineup last game. Has that been something, Kyle, that's been kind of the norm where he's been in and out of the lineup? Do you think he gets back in at some point, or where's he at this point, would you say?
It's been up and down from this year. Not much offensively, and going 5 left-hand defenseman is an interesting choice by Marco Sturm, but I'm not sure if he's a little banged up. I know he was banged up earlier in the season, but it has been the norm lately where he's been in and out of the lineup with a scratch. He's even been taken off power play too at times. Tobias Bjornfoot's been in that spot. So unfortunately, it's been an up and down season for Helge Grans.
It might be something we talk about in the offseason. Joe, you were higher on Grans than you were Faber, and Faber's looking good in the playoffs for the Wild. So maybe you were dead wrong. I don't know.
That's what happens with prospects. Sometimes these guys hit. Some of them end up being great, right off the bat. Some take time to develop. So maybe I wouldn't rule the book out on him just yet.
No, I loved Helge Grans. We talked with multiple Swedish scouts saying that he was very much a project, but has one of the highest ceilings of all of the LA Kings defensemen. So hopefully he figures it out, and maybe it's just a rough year. But I want to thank everybody in the chat for coming in, taking time out of your day or night to listen to us just ramble on about your favorite team, and subscribe to our content. Hockey Royalty, you can find all of our articles at hockeyroyalty.com, at hockey royalty or hockey_royalty. You have all our Twitter handlers going on the bottom. Rando Commando 24, NHL Russell, JW Paterino, and Kopitar for HOF. DraftKings code THPN if you want to lay down some bets. Joe said the Kings are ripe for the picking if you want to lay them down for the rest of this 5-game series. Nick Froman coming here with thank you guys. Go Kings go. Richard coming here with a Go Kings go. Shake Master, Go Kings go. And Bing Junts. Great show, guys. Go Kings go. Thank you, fellas, for coming in here. We got to get a W game 3. Got to get a W. So hopefully we're not so somber in this next podcast. Appreciate
Start the weekend
else.
off great.
Yeah.
Right.
Appreciate everybody here and on this podcast. Go Kings go.